welcome to Capitol Hill. I'm Lyndall Curtis. The Prime Minister goes into tomorrow's Council of Australian Governments meeting with the states and territories, having already chalked up one win. New South Wales is now signed up to the full National Disability Insurance Scheme after a funding split was agreed between the Commonwealth and that state, funding split close to 50-50. The numbers are looking good for the federal government too on unemployment, with the unemployment rate in November falling slightly to 5.2%, although there's still weakness in the economy. Joining me to discuss the day are Liberal MP Kelly O'Dwyer and Labor MP Graham Perrott. Welcome to you both.
Nice to be with you.
Lyndall.
We'll start with today's surprise funding announcement on the NDIS from the Prime Minister and the New South Wales Premier.
What it means is that the Commonwealth and the state will share around half of the burden, that the Commonwealth and the state will each put in an extra $3 billion more for care and support of people in New South Wales.
We're fully supportive of the agreement between the Commonwealth and New South Wales. We would honour that and we look forward to seeing further agreements between the Commonwealth and the states.
Graham, was the agreement with New South Wales in the end one of the easier ones for the Prime Minister to strike, because she's going to have a more difficult negotiation with the Premier of the state you live in, Queensland, isn't she?
Yeah, we've only got the Tweed River between Barry O'Farrell and Campbell Newman, but it might as well be a million miles by the sound of the responses already coming out from the Queensland government. And remember, we're behind other states in terms of how much we give to people with disability. I think $7 in Victoria, Kelly's fine state, compared to $10 in Victoria compared to $7 in Queensland. So we're already coming from a long way back. It will be a big negotiation. I think there might be some opportunities in that spirit of goodwill that comes out of Christmas, perhaps for Campbell to sit down with the Prime Minister Gillard and come up with a plan that will take us forward. I see that Campbell Newman has pumped a lot of money into de-amalgamating councils, so something that will create more politicians. He sees that as a bigger priority than putting money into people with disability. It's a bit bizarre.
Kelly, do you think the Prime Minister will find it easier to strike agreements with states like Victoria as it has done with New South Wales?
Well, I think what we can take today, Lyndall, from the announcement is it is a positive step. The announcement is obviously something that we do support. However, without wanting to put too much of a dampener on it, I would say that what we are talking about, though, is an agreement for a funding split, not new funding, but a funding split in 2018. That's not next election, not the election after that, but the election following. And who knows whether Julia Gillard is going to be Prime Minister at that time and whether she'll actually be called on that commitment. But given
your side of politics is signed up to or says it is supportive of the NDIS as well, doesn't that bipartisanship guarantee an agreement like this will be able to be implemented?
Well, you know, one thing that the Prime Minister has constantly said when it comes to the National Disability Insurance Scheme is she said it's been delivered. Of course, that's not true. It hasn't been delivered. There has been only $1 billion of money provided for in the budget, and that's for trials. Now, I agree with you, it's a positive announcement, and absolutely we support it, and we don't want to see anybody play politics with such an important issue. But the only person who has played politics with this issue has been the Prime Minister. We have said we want to work together, have a bipartisan committee to actually work through the issues around implementation. This is something that she has rejected. We've said we're happy to put coalition members on this. Again, she said this is not something that she wants to do. I think it's very disappointing.
Forgive my cynicism, Kelly, but when has a government in the past got an idea that's popular and then welcomed the opposition into the kind of councils of decision-making bodies?
Well, we've been very genuine in this, Lyndall. We've said that if we were to be elected to government, we would have Labor members on it. We think it's important because it's going to last beyond the lifetime of any one government. And if you are genuine and serious about it, if you are more than simply playing politics with this issue, you want to have everybody's input and buy-in. So, you know, we can't do much more than that. And I think, again, it is very disappointing that the Prime Minister has chosen not to take that path.
Graham, the Prime Minister made it clear today that she doesn't want a levy put on to fund the NDIS, but she says she'll be asking people to make some hard choices to get it done, saying that the government will put the priority on the NDIS. Do you think it would make any severe cuts more politically palatable if people are thinking the money will go to disability?
Well, look, it's never easy to ask Australians to put their hands in their wallets. But we are a country where we'd like to give a helping hand to people. So perhaps if it was something like, asking people to support something like NDIS, which has been incredibly popular in my electorate. I've been lobbied hell, west and crooked by all sorts of groups saying that this is a good thing. So look, it will be in a tough economic environment over the next few years. It will be hard to find those savings, but the Prime Minister doesn't seem to be the sort of woman that when she says something retreats from it. This is something where we will find the money.
I might remind you of a couple of things there, Graham.
I'm very supportive of the fact that we'll reach those targets. We said we'd put a price on pollution. We did that.
Kelly, you also said you wouldn't deliver a carbon tax, and you did do that.
I thought we wouldn't be able to get through this program without a mention of that. But Kelly, would budget cuts that mean the money is directed towards the NDIS make them more acceptable?
Well, look, I think it's interesting when Graham says that they don't ask people to put their hands in their pockets. I would in fact respectfully disagree with him. We've seen with this government 27 new or increased taxes, so they certainly don't have a problem with imposing new taxes at all. I think one of the biggest problems here is that one of the best ways we could fund this, one of the best ways that, well, that's simply not the case, Graham, but let me just finish. One of the best ways that we can fund this is to ensure that the money that we are spending on our interest bill, which is more than $8 billion a year, could actually be much better directed towards something like the National Disability Insurance Scheme. We are instead frittering this money away. We're borrowing money, we're racking up debt, and on that debt we are paying interest.
We might move on now to the unemployment figures. Graham, unemployment fell slightly in the month of November, but economists believe that because it was a lagging indicator, unemployment hasn't yet picked up on the fact that there is some weakness in the economy. Do you think we can expect the unemployment figures to get a little worse into the new year?
Well, look, obviously Christmas is normally a time when people do take up some employment opportunities. So I think we're in for a tough time in the months ahead. Just talking to some small businesses and retailers in my electorate, obviously the interest rate cut yesterday will hopefully give some signs to people out there to loosen their pockets a little bit. I mean, it's good that they're paying down their debts and paying off their credit cards, but there's some retailers would obviously like some bodies to go through their shops. So I think the figures will tighten up a little bit, is my feeling from my electorate, which is a sort of middle Australia electorate.
Kelly, we've seen this week, we've got an economy growing at 3%, we've got low uninflation that's been contained for some time, we've got unemployment at 5.2%, and our interest rates are low too. That's not a doom and gloom economic picture, is it?
Well, as Wayne Swan himself said as Treasurer, we now have a cash rate at emergency levels. I mean, they're his words, not mine.
But the Reserve Bank has made it clear that it's not at emergency levels, because if you look at the rates being offered by the banks, they're actually higher, and the Reserve is taking account of the fact that the banks haven't cut as much as the Reserve has.
Well, Lyndall, I'm quoting the Treasurer of this country, who is meant to be the world's greatest Treasurer. So, I mean, if we're going to take his word for anything, then let's take it on this. What I would say to you is business confidence is at its lowest level. And Graham is absolutely right when he says that you only need to go and speak to some of your small businesses to know that confidence is low. People are concerned. And while we have seen, happily, the unemployment rate drop, what we have seen, though, is simply an increase in part-time employment, not so much on the full-time employment front. And what we do want to see is increased confidence so that people will invest in their businesses and employ more people and help grow our economy. And I certainly don't think that we are in a strong position at this stage.
Graham, do you think that there needs to that really now is the time for the government to keep cutting spending, given that there is that weakness in the economy?
Well, we've made those budget commitments, and I mean, obviously you've got to do it reasonably. We've seen in Queensland what happens when you have that slash and burn mentality. You look at the unemployment figures, and you can see that Queensland is a bit of a basket case when a government goes in crazily and attacks employment. That's not good. I mean, I'm proud to be a part of a government in the last 5 years that's created over 800,000 jobs. We're on track to hit 1 million. I'm sure people like Kelly will still talk about doom and gloom Hopefully
Which
they'll
jobs
also
did
look
you
at the
create,
real data.
apart from the 20,000 in the public service?
They'll also look at the real data in terms of the fact that compared to the rest of the world, we're doing okay. But you know, there's obviously we need to pull the levers that we can to help small businesses.
I don't think Graham gets it, because business actually gets people into jobs. They employ people, not government. I mean, the government has, of course, increased the number of public servants. We've seen that go up by 20,000.
And it's great to see
so that's pretty
productivity.
significant.
It's great to see
productivity's
has
gone
started
down,
to go
Graham. It's multi-factor productivity has plummeted.
I might
productivity
interrupt
was
you.
at sorry, if I could just get this point out. Sorry, Kelly, to interrupt your dialogue. Productivity was at zero when we took office back in 2007. The reality is productivity is now on the increase, and with those investments in education and NBN, that will be fantastic. That will be fantastic.
I might just interrupt the dispute over the figures. Given this is our last of these shorter backbencher programs this year, I thought I'd offer you the opportunity to offer the media some free advice. Kelly, what do you think the media could be doing better in reporting or covering politics?
Well, look, heaven forbid that I would actually give any advice to the media, because, of course, the advice generally only goes in one direction. They give a lot of advice to us. You know, simply all I would say is that I think having good, strong policy discussions with proper, detailed analysis is something that I hope to see next year.
And you, Graham, do you think there are areas where the media could be lifting its game?
Look, I think it appropriate. I'm going to quote from Dame Elizabeth Murdoch, and something I heard just on the radio coming in, where I think she'd criticised her son for focusing sometimes too much on the individual. So I hate to, in a spirit of goodwill at the end of the year, I'm going to agree with Kelly to focus on the policy, and rather than intruding on individuals' lives, to focus on the policy and the bigger story is not a bad recipe for good news journalism. And I think she might know a little bit more about media than I ever will.
And finally, to both of you, do you think the public would like a break from a little politics over the summer?
I'm confident that that's right, Lyndall.
And Graham?
Very, very much so. Yeah, look, summer in January is a good time to be on the beach. And when I run into my constituents on the beach or around Moreton, they don't want to talk politics. They want to talk cricket. They want to talk family. They want to talk other issues, and they'd like a break from us. And I'm happy to oblige.
And
Merry Christmas.
Gearing up for an election year next year, do you think, Kelly, the pace will be as fast and furious as it's been, or even more so?
Well, look, I think we've all been fast and furious over the last little while, and I expect that the pace won't diminish. In fact, if anything, I think your predictions are right. It will probably increase. But so long as we're focused on the issues that are important to the people of Australia, I think that is then a win-win for everybody.
And that's where we'll have to leave it. Kelly O'Dwyer and Graham Perrott,
Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much for your time, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks, Lyndall.
And thank you for your time today. Please be with Capitol Hill tomorrow. Good night.